Everybody. Texas, I don't know if I'll be able to go all night or not, but I'll go as long as I can go or until the movies run out, whichever comes first. Um, it looked like there were several people, well, two people, but there have been 5 views, but then it says I've got 4 concurrent viewers, so I don't know. I can't really judge by the YouTube analytics or whatever. It's sometimes hard to judge. Hey, Darren. And also, I don't know if Texas may be watching this on 3 different devices, so I don't know. Oh yeah, sure. I'd love Bliss to join us again. That's really cool. We need some more ladies in here. So yeah, definitely if you can get her in there. Not that I'm not saying anything about it. I don't like hanging out with you guys, but equal opportunity and all that. So yeah, I would definitely like to see more ladies come in here, just to balance things out a little bit, and also get more of a woman's perspective. I got something on my screen again. Hey, Menelect. Texas, you say not right now, just on my phone. Gotcha. Um, I was hoping Dirk would be in here tonight, and he may be a little bit later. Um, Trying to get me more followers. I appreciate that, Texas. But the reason why I was hoping that Dirk would be in here at some point is because I watched, well, I haven't got all the way through it, but I've almost got 3 hours into the almost 5.5 hours that he did with, no, X-Ray, you did not miss anything. I'm just blabbing here at the beginning because, as Steve so lovingly tells me, my intro is like, he's like, how long is your intro? And I tell him, and he's like, he just shakes his head and kind of rolls his eyes and goes away. But, he always thinks my intros are too long, and he thinks this and he thinks that. And it's like, I feel like telling him, hey, you do your thing and I'll do mine, okay? So as long as nobody else minds that's watching these things, then I think I'll keep my intro as is. Sometime I hope to have an outro. I don't yet, haven't really had a chance to sit down and create an outro. Um, you know, um, Speaking of, how you do things for streams and stuff, I think the video feed looks pretty decent, or at least it looks decent when I'm streaming it. Um, but I notice other people. Oh no, Texas. Oh, it didn't freak me out at all. I just I wasn't sure who she was, and and I was happy when you told me it was your girlfriend. So no, it didn't freak me out any. No, that was cool. Um, but I just like I was noticing the guys on the stream with Dirk. Um, Pop and what was it, Brian and um, I'm sorry, I can't remember all the guys' names. That's awful. But I did remember a few of them. Pop, I'm familiar with Pop's Movie Dungeon and stuff like that. And of course, Dirk, I'm very familiar with because he does the Eurocult show with us. And he also comes in quite a few of my streams. So, and they were up my light but we'll just carry on for a while, and I may plug up one after one's been charging for a while. I keep forgetting to charge the damn things. But anyway, I noticed how clear their cameras were, and it's like, why isn't mine that clear? And maybe I should ask Dirk what kind of camera he uses. Steve tells me that he believes it's because we're using webcams and we're not either using our phone or one of those really expensive SLR cameras, digital cameras. So, I like this streaming webcam, and I like the clarity of it when I'm just looking at it like this, when I'm actually doing the stream. But I don't like how it looks later after it's, I guess processed and went on YouTube. For some reason, it doesn't look as crystal clear as other people's. And I would like it, not because I think I look good, but I just want to get that clarity. I want to get that really crystal clear clarity. Um, Actually, you said the background is okay. The cabin reminds me of the one from Freddy versus Jason. Oh yeah, I'd forgotten about that. Yeah, I'm kind of using the cabin a lot because I think that goes along with my Evil Dead type of theme, Deadites on deck theme. Um, Texas, you say category three and me. Some professor guy, boring Brian goes blue. Actually, you say, the webcam aesthetic suits your show and Dead Pits. The day you go all 4K, stop watching sellouts. Oh, well, we don't want you to quit watching. I'm just trying to make my stuff look as good and as professional as I am able to afford to get it. Now, I'm probably not going to be able to afford those super expensive SLR cameras. Red, you say a lot of those foreign horror films are weird and boring to me, but House by the Cemetery was cool. I love House by the Cemetery, and I'm gonna get to talking about Fulci and Argento here very soon. Uh, Actually, you said I assume that cabin is where you and Steve dwell. Sometimes I wish it was where we dwelled, although I'd like the roof to be a little bit better because I don't particularly want to get rained on when it rains. And we had a whole heck of a lot of rain last night. X-Ray, you say, just watch. Dana is gonna go woke. Gonna dye her hair purple and talk about how Joe Bob is alt-right. Oh, God. Somebody just hit me upside the head with something or just kill me if I do that. You have my permission to just kill me dead. Um, well, really, don't kill me, but give me a good smack upside the head because I would need it at that point if I did that. Something I did notice, and I would tease Dirk about it if he was in here. Something I did notice about that stream he just did with the other guys not very long ago is, and I think they said they did these every other Saturday or something, um, is how much damn hereditary talk there was. It's like, I just don't. Maybe I need to just force myself to sit down and watch that damn movie again. Because a lot of people seem to be really behind that movie, and I just cannot, for the life of me, I cannot figure out why. So that's why I'm thinking I need to just force myself to sit down and watch it again. The other thing I did notice is like the extreme like for the Evil Dead remake. And it's like I think that was the one that Wes was saying we ought to do a watch along or a commentary or something for. And I think I said that was probably the only way I'd ever watch that damn thing again. And so I don't get that either. I don't understand. I think Darren really is mostly the only one that like really gets what I'm saying about the Evil Dead remake. Everybody else is like, no, no, it's great. It's like all these different ways they have of like, I guess, introducing the Deadites and whatever, and one of the guys that was on the stream with Dirk, um, the guy that's got the like, it looks like almost like a fancy TV room or den set up. I forget what that dude's name is. I think his screen name says something like Ordinary Guy or something like that, but I'm forgetting what his real name is. But I think he said that like Evil Dead and the Evil Dead remake really stand on their own and like all this, and I'm like, I get that about the original Evil Dead, but I just cannot get my head wrapped around this love for the Evil Dead remake. And maybe I'm missing something. I don't know. I seem to be in the minority on both that and my dislike of Hereditary as well. Uh, let's see. Actually, you say, I'll get around to watching all these A24 horror films eventually. I'm more interested watching shit from the 80s and backwards. Yeah, I am too, X-Ray, pretty much. But Steve accuses me of watching the same old shit that I watch all the time. Um, Texas, you say, I skipped out on the 3 hour mark. I had to spend time with Blissful. Oh, yeah, I totally get that. Um, I am watching it in chunks, is what I'm doing. Like on my lunch break or something, since I've been working from home, I'll, of course, go back there in the living room and I'll, just put that YouTube video on while I'm eating and stuff. Um, and the guys are entertaining. They really are. Um, and I think they all mesh well and bounce off of each other and all this stuff. And I think the dynamic really works really well. X-Ray, you say, I watched the remake once. It was I think it would have been better if the whole thing was some drug hallucination. The main chick killed her pals in a drug-fueled rampage. Well, see, that was the big thing, and I think Darren feels this way too. The big thing I didn't like was that introduction to the drug addiction and the fact that they were kind of like having an intervention for this chick. I was like, I didn't expect it to be shot for shot like the Evil Dead. But I just did not like that angle at all. And I didn't like the characters. I didn't like who they chose to play these people. That they, in my opinion, they were god awful. Um, Darren, you say I watched some of that stream with Dirk as well. Good stuff, knowledgeable guys. Yeah, I get that. They're very well rounded. I may not agree with all the movies that they were talking about loving and things like that, but then some of the stuff I did agree on. But as I always say, um, to each his own, and it's great that everybody doesn't like exactly the same things and feel exactly the same way about all these movies. Um, they actually brought up, if you talk, uh, if you if you say good things about the Evil Dead remake, it's like them fighting words. Well, no, I'm not going to get in a fight with anybody. I've been, I guess, passionate about it. I might call something a piece of shit, but if somebody else likes it, they like it. I know old Curly Jaws hadn't been in here for a while, but I really wish he would come back because um, I love being able to bounce off of everybody, because we don't all like exactly the same thing. I like hearing why somebody doesn't like something or why they like something and are real passionate about it. Because, sometimes that will encourage me to go back and watch something that I really didn't like the first time around. Now, the Evil Dead remake may be the exception to the rule with me, just because I am so passionate about that original series. Um, but Hereditary, I mean, like I said, maybe I am just missing a big, or maybe more than one big point with that movie. Texas, you said that was probably that professor guy. It's possible. Because he kind of looks like a professor. X-Ray, you say new stuff just isn't as compelling to me. A lot of modern movies are just unofficial remakes or rehashes of better older films. X-Ray, you say, oh, Curly Jaws has been put in jail for his crimes. He's been tried and sentenced for having shit taste movies. Well, I rib him and carry on, but, I feel like it's all in good humor. I hold no ill will towards the guy at all. And I enjoyed, immensely when he was in these live streams. So I kind of miss him. But I did want to remind everybody that tomorrow night I will be doing the Cheese Extreme Wednesday. We're going to be talking about Memorial Valley Massacre and Microwave Massacre, two massacres for the price of one, guys. So you can look forward to that. That'll be tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. The big reason why I'm doing a stream tonight is because I am off tomorrow. I have two appointments, one with my therapist and one with a psychiatric nurse practitioner, to discuss the paperwork that my HR team has sent me. So hopefully I can get this ball rolling to be able to work from home for good. That is my hope. Fingers crossed. That is why I'm off tomorrow, because I have two appointments. Thank you, X-Ray. So then I had to fill out part of the paperwork, and probably my therapist will write a letter to go along with this, and then the psychiatric nurse practitioner will actually fill out, like, because she told me they're probably going to want a medical professional. Um, Not that the therapist is any less knowledgeable of my issues, but I guess they just really want somebody with a medical background as well as a psychiatric background to fill out this paperwork. But I thought, hey, it couldn't have hurt to have this additional letter from Lee, my therapist. So Thank you, Texas. Uh, I mean, the HR department, they told me to send them what my reasonable request was, and I already did that. And they said they would review it and then send me some paperwork. So, I mean, they didn't say anything like, hey, Dana, you don't really stand a really good chance of getting this accommodation. Maybe we can do something else for you. Um, they just sent me the paperwork, and I thanked them, and they said, you're welcome. And I've just got to get that paperwork back to them by the 9th of September. So hopefully I'll be able to find out something soon. Um, it's kind of, and I've said this before, it's kind of sad the thought of not going back and being in the office with my coworkers and stuff like that, because we really did get along, and that's not what this is about. And it's not about them. It's about me. I'm the one with the problem. And if I do get this accommodation, I want to make that known to everybody that, hey, I'm not doing this because I dislike you guys. I'm doing this because of my anxiety and stuff. Um, and it has nothing to do with them. They're all very nice people. Just my anxiety gets to me so bad, and it seems like the older I've gotten, the worse it is. And I I've been doing a lot of reading. I promise I'll get off of this here soon and get to the movies. But I have been doing some research into different types of reasonable accommodations for people with disabilities. And like I said, anxiety, depression, even diabetes are considered disabilities. And working from home is considered a reasonable accommodation. And it's also usually the cheapest option for your company, because in my case, they're not having to give me any equipment other than a computer at the office, which I would be using at the office if I was there. So it's not like I'm asking for any special equipment or anything like that, because basically what I'm doing when I get up in the morning and I start work at 7:30 in the morning is I turn on my personal computer, and it has VMware on it. I use that to connect to my office computer, and that's it. Other than having a connection to my phone at work, which we do through a soft phone type of thing. I don't know how many of you are familiar with that, but that is what we use. So I don't actually have a physical phone here at my house to use for work. Not like when I work for the library. The library, or they said they had to. They provided me with a laptop at one time, a Surface the rest of the time. And my desk phone, I had to take back and forth with me. When I was in the office, I had to have it in the office. Whenever I was working from home, I had to have it at home. So there was a lot more entailed with that. Stockyards, thankfully, has a lot more streamlined. So they're not really going to be out tons of money, because they're not having to get me any kind of desk, special desk, or something special for my screen, and they're not gonna, if they'll allow me to work from home, they're not gonna have to give me like extra breaks or longer breaks or a longer lunch, which, to be totally honest, I don't think that's gonna help me anyway. I think what's going to help me is being able to work from home every day and being able to be settled in my home environment. I am always connected with my help desk team. I'm always connected with my supervisor. I'm always connected with my manager. If I need anything, it's always there. And if a time came when my supervisor needed all hands on deck to go to a location around Louisville and work on something, I would be gung ho for that. All I'm asking for is the majority of the time to be able to work from home instead versus working in the office. Um, Darren, you say, I suffer panic attacks and anxiety, so I know where you're coming from. Hopefully, you get your wish to work from home. Oh, I sincerely hope so, Darren. Because it's like I said before, I am not a lazy person. I am not trying to get out of work. I'm just trying to provide an environment where I can continue working because I don't want to, I'm not putting down anybody that is on disability. I'm just saying I don't want to go on disability. I want to keep working. But I'm afraid if I don't do something to alleviate the anxiety, then I'm going to get where I can't work, which is not going to be good because I think I need work in a lot of ways. I just can't handle the stress of being in the office. Texas, you say, same here, Darren. My girlfriend, blissful, same thing. Yeah, there are so many people that suffer from it. And I don't think it's like an increase in it. I just think people feel more comfortable talking about it and saying, hey, I have anxiety issues. Hey, I have depression issues. Because almost everybody I talk to now, um, they have some form of anxiety or depression. Unfortunately, I suffer from both. I you know I think Steve sometimes, bless his heart, I love him, but there's a portion of the population, and I think my husband fits into that does not understand depression, and I don't think they really understand anxiety. Um, but I almost think Steve should, because Steve has been in those deep, dark places where you feel like you're in this hole and you will never dig yourself out. Um, so he's told me before, he said, you got to make yourself happy. And I said, Steve, but sometimes you can't. And I don't want to get in that helpless, hopeless, dark hole, because that's a miserable place to be, a miserable place to be. And if you've ever seen anybody suffer from depression, or you've suffered from depression yourself, you know exactly what I'm talking about. My mother suffered from depression. When I was growing up, I saw her in terrible shape, where she was crying all the time. She could barely get out of bed. If she wasn't sleeping, she was crying. She couldn't eat. Um, I mean, she tried to eat, but, you know, it was just a very terrible time for her. Um, so she finally had to go see somebody about it, and she had to get on medication. That's why I always tell Steve he needs to take his medication. And unfortunately, he doesn't want to. And Steve's medication, he thinks it's for just for depression, and he says, I'm not depressed. I said, Steve, it's also a mood stabilizer. And I'm not trying to get on here and tell tales out of school or anything like that. And Steve might be upset if he hears me talking about this, but you guys probably understand anger issues. Everybody's gotten angry at one time or another. But Steve has a kind of explosive anger at some points. And sometimes that anger is directed towards me, not like hitting, but, screaming, yelling, name calling. And I've been guilty of that as well. And, it never ends well when people are screaming and yelling and calling each other names. And, because the thing about me is I feel really bad afterward and apologize almost immediately. Steve, not so much. And Steve, in the last month or so, when he tried to take himself off his medicine, has broken a fan, mashed a fan in a million pieces back here, um, and other things, that I won't go into, because he might say, "God, Dana, why are you telling that live in front of all these people?" Well, because I feel like you guys are friends, um, and you know, people need to know about this stuff. And the reason why they need to know about it is not to say, poor Dana, look what she has to deal with. The reason why I'm telling people this is like, if you have loved ones that are on medication like this, please encourage them all you can to stay on their medication. If they're concerned about side effects, encourage them to talk to their doctor about side effects. Maybe the doctor can switch them to a different medicine. Steve's thing is he just point blank doesn't want to take medicine. Um, he's fine with getting a testosterone shot every week, but pop him in the hip with a testosterone shot. But most anything else he doesn't want to take, or he'll take his cholesterol medicine. But heaven forbid somebody should ask him to take something for his mental health. Um, but I know that I have to take my medications, or I would just completely fall apart. So the reason why I'm telling you guys all of this is not to tell on my husband or for you to feel sorry for me. It's because if you or you have loved ones that are on medication similar to what either Steve and I are taking, um, please encourage them to stay on it. Or if they don't like how that particular medicine makes them feel, have them talk to their doctor so they can get on another comparable medicine that maybe doesn't have as many side effects. Um, and also encourage them to go to a good doctor, even if that means going to see a psychiatrist. I'm not ashamed to say I went to a psychiatrist, and I'd probably still be going to said psychiatrist if it wasn't so expensive and they wouldn't take insurance. So it was completely out of pocket. But now I'm going to Bridge Counseling and Wellness, and that is where I see my psychiatric nurse practitioner and my therapist. And they are really, really helpful. I can do a little more talking with my therapist. My psychiatric nurse practitioner, I can talk to her too, but she is more medication management. So it's good to have those combination of both medical professionals. Darren, you say, lucky the meds I'm on help a lot. There's a stigma about depression, but a hell of a lot of people suffer in silence. Yeah, and it's sad that they still do, Darren, because, I had hoped, back when my mom was going through that, she had to go see a psychiatrist for a little while. And she said the first time she went into the psychiatrist's office, the waiting room, she turned around and walked right back out because she just couldn't do it. But she wasn't getting any better, so she knew that she was going to have to go back. And she did, and she got better, and things got manageable and stuff. So that's why I always say, don't, as Darren was saying, a lot of people suffer in silence. You don't need to suffer in silence. There is help out there, and there are good medical professionals that can help you. So definitely, if I sound like one of those paid service announcements or public service announcements, but I'm just saying, if you need help, make sure you get it. If you need medication, make sure you get it. Because that's no way to live your life. And I think in Steve's case, I think he suffered a lot over the years. Before, way before me, and during our marriage as well. So it's not just me that feels this, he's suffering. And I want him to be happy because um, nobody wants to be miserable all their life and get into that deep dark place like I was talking about. You don't want to get in that deep dark hole where you feel like you can't get out. So I promise I'm going to move into the movies and move into something a little more cheerier for us. Hey, Biagio, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I might just call you B, if you don't mind, because I probably just massacred your name there. You say, thanks for sharing. I certainly understand. Yeah, there's more people that actually that understand and know what people are going through than you realize. And a lot more people that are going through the same things that like I am, Steve is, um, Darren, Texas's girlfriend. I mean, it's pretty widespread. So actually, you say, yeah, moving to cheers, so it's like vomiting intestines and pins taped under eyelids. Exactly, exactly. That's what you want Dana to be talking about here, not. Um, B, you say perfect way of saying it. Okay. Um, so, in addition to Cheese Extreme Wednesday tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, um, we will, or I will be having a Slaughter High watch along on Sunday. Um, I'm probably going to try to start it at about 6 p.m. Eastern Time. So you can feel free to join us for that. Oh, but hold on. Oh, yeah, that's Sunday. Never mind. I started to say, oh, I might not be able to do it. But yeah, I'll be able to do it. Because Saturday, Steve has agreed to us going to see Jaws at the theater. I did hear that on the stream Dirk was on that Jaws was coming back to AMC theaters. And I got really excited because Jaws is a movie I've always loved. You guys have heard me talk about Jaws and how nostalgic that movie makes me feel. So many good memories of watching it with my dad. If I was visiting them now and Jaws was on, me and my dad would be watching that movie. That is our movie. So I don't think Steve actually realizes that, it's not just because I like the movie. I have really fond memories of the movie. Anyway, Saturday, Steve and I are going, if it's not sold out, I'm going to try to get us tickets to go see oh, you know what? I think he told me we would go on Sunday. Shit. Okay. So, little rewind here. See, me and Steve have talked about it back and forth so much that I forget what he said. He did say Sunday we would go see it because this is the long weekend. So, here's what I'm going to do. How would you guys feel about us doing the Slaughter High watch along on Saturday? And I'm not sure about the time because that's dependent on if Steve's going to do a stream or not. If he does his 6 o'clock stream, I'll probably have this about 7ish on Saturday. And I'm glad I thought of that before I got y'all jazzed about Sunday. So we'll do it Saturday, either at 6 if Steve doesn't do a stream, around 7 if he does do a stream. So if that sounds agreeable to everybody, then that's what we'll plan to do. So you can look forward to that. You can look forward to Cheese Extreme Wednesday. Darren, you say Saturday's good for you. Great. And I will tell, the stream that I have soon after we watch Jaws at the theater, I'll let y'all know how the theater experience was. Hey, Jason, you say Saturday's good for you? Great. Okay. So we've got those two things coming up. Cheese Extreme Wednesday, Slaughter High watch along Saturday. Uh, and as usual, I have links in the description. Yes. Thank you, Texas. I will do that. And I'll also try to remember to put it in the chat as well as the description. That way it'll be both places. And if I forget to do that in the chat, Texas, before we get started, just let me know, and I'll make sure it gets put in there. Darren, you say me and Steve should do a Jaws on the Road video. Well, I'll ask him about it, Darren, and see if we can do one of those. I don't know, when was the last Dead Pit on the Road video they did? I don't remember seeing one of those in a long, long while. But yeah, let me ask Steve and see if I can get him to do that. I'd like to do an on the road when we go to see Dawn of the Dead in 3D. Because we're planning on going to see that too, because I did find a Regal Theater over in New Albany, which is not very far from Louisville. Halloween Kills, Aaron? Okay. I totally forgotten about that. Maybe because I dislike that movie. I don't know. But anyway, Aaron actually asked me if I was doing a stream last night, but I wasn't feeling too great last night, and so I opted to take a night off and had me some soup and watched some Tales from the Dark Side, which I haven't watched some Tales from the Dark Side episodes for a while, but that is Tales from the Dark Side and Twilight Zone from the 80s are two like really TV oriented fond memories that I have. So the other links that I have in the description, of course, for my Etsy shop, the Morbid Beauty Boutique. I've gotten some suggestions, including doing some Blood Diner stickers that I'm planning to get in the works. There are a few other things that people brought up, like Dirk brought up the New York Ripper shirt. Of course, Texas wants his Goddamn Bob shirt and stickers that I'm going to get in the works soon. So, yeah, all kinds of good stuff hopefully coming to the Morbid Beauty Boutique soon. My TeePublic storefront is still up. If you want to get a couple of Deadites on Deck shirt designs, the link to my Deadites on Deck Facebook page, where you can keep abreast of when I'm going to do a stream, even if it's just on a whim, kind of like it was today. Also, there's a link to my actual YouTube channel. So, with all of that being said, let me read these. Actually, you say Tales from the Dark Side's intro is creepier than most movies. It is pretty creepy. That is an intro that's really stuck with me over the years. Actually, you say the In the Closet episode always gave me the heebie-jeebies. Yeah, I might talk about those again at some point. Early on in my channel, I did talk about some television horror, and I talked about some of the episodes from Tales from the Dark Side, Twilight Zone from the 80s, Tales from the Crypt, things like that. What's my opinion on the show Monsters? I'm glad you brought that up because I almost forgot about Monsters. I liked Monsters, and I thought it had some interesting stories, especially One that really stands out for me was The Moving Finger, which was based on a Stephen King story of this finger that just a single finger that shows up in this guy's sink one day. Um, that was a really interesting episode, and I think it worked well because it was a short story that Stephen King wrote. And so I think those kind of stories really work well in that format. But I didn't like Monsters as well as I did both Tales from the Dark Side and Twilight Zone from the 80s. Those were the biggies I remember growing up with. I mean, there were other shows. There was like Erie, Indiana. You guys remember Erie, Indiana? Um, then when we very late 80s into the 90s, we had Tales from the Crypt, which I also loved a lot of those episodes. Um, Trying to think, some older stuff like there was Ray Bradbury Theater. Um, there was the original Twilight Zone, which I also have that entire series on DVD. I don't have the Blu-ray. I'd like to get the Blu-rays at some point, which there are a lot of good episodes there. I just started digging into those not very long ago. Um, so X-Ray, yes, I like Monsters, and I like quite a few of the episodes. That was one that I remember growing up with as well. But there was Freddy's Nightmares, and there was Friday the 13th, the series. There was the Hitchhiker. You guys remember that? Um, just the Outer Limits is another. Oh, and Outer Limits actually had some really good episodes as well. Actually, you say, yeah, Monsters was cheesier. The episodes usually had downbeat endings. The intro was legendary, though. But, speaking of, like you said, In the Closet episode of Tales from the Dark Side gave you the heebie jeebies. I'll tell you an episode that really upped the creep factor, in my opinion. I promise we're going to get to the movies, guys, but I did want to bring this up. And it's one I really love watching when I'm watching the series, and that is Anniversary Dinner. And I don't know how many of you have seen that one, but it's about a guy and a girl that come upon a house with the old man and the old woman who are getting ready to celebrate their wedding anniversary. And the girl gets in a fight with her boyfriend, and so she ends up back at the old couple's house, and they agree to, let her stay with them. And they have, why old people would have a hot tub, I don't know, but they said it was up for their children. That's something that they keep talking about, is their children. They miss the children. The children always made their anniversary so special. They miss the children. And so they let this girl get in the hot tub, and then things get a little bit strange during the last quarter of the episode. The old man seems really angry that the girl went into where they have the hot tub, and she was playing music and she was doing all this stuff, and he told her to get out of there, and then he apologized to her a little bit later, and they let her get in the hot tub, and they give her booze and everything, and she starts getting a little drunk, and they start putting vegetables in this hot tub, and then you begin to realize they're not feeding her, they're cooking her. They're going to make a stew out of her. And so the last thing that the old woman says is, she tells her husband, I think we should share this with the children. They open this locked cabinet that's in the room with the hot tub, and there are all these skulls there. That episode really resonated with me, and I really think it's a really creepy episode. So, if you've never seen it, I highly encourage you to watch that episode if you can. X-Ray, you say, I only remember the theme song from The Hitchhiker. Yeah, I do too. And I don't remember The Hitchhiker as well as I do some of the other shows. But I think that was probably because The Hitchhiker was on so damn late. Or at least it was in my neck of the woods. So, anyway, with that being said, we are going to get into um, the first of what I hope to be several episodes of Argento versus Fulci. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go, for this episode, I'm going to go through the first 5 horror and or Giallo films. We're only covering those. We're not going to cover Westerns or anything like that because I know Fulci did some Westerns and no doubt they're good. We're not going to do any of his crime stuff like Contraband, which is I also enjoyed. I watched that recently with Steve. I'm not going to cover Conquest because Conquest has some horrific elements to it, but I think of Conquest as more of a fantasy type thing. So we're really going to focus only on horror and or Giallo. Okay. So I didn't want anybody to have any kind of expectations that I was not going to meet. So what I'm going to do is I picked the first 5 that I could make out the title. We're also not going to cover any TV movies for either one of these directors if I don't goof up. So that's going to leave just these core group of movies for each one of the directors, I think. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the first one of Argento and the first one of Fulci, and I'm going to compare them. Then we're going to go to the second one, and I'm going to compare those. And I'll give you my thoughts on which one I think's better and all of that. So, I will tell you the movies that we're going to be covering for Argento first. X-Ray, you say Steve's favorite episode from Tales from the Dark Side is the final one with the pro wrestling demons. I don't even know if he likes Tales from the Dark Side, to be honest. Darren, you say Argento is my favorite director, but Fulci is not far behind. And I'm also hoping that if there is anybody in here that is maybe not as familiar with one or other of the directors, maybe we'll get them encouraged to seek out some movies by these directors. You think the concept is awesome, Daniel? Well, I hate that I can't remember who brought this up, but somebody brought it up in one of the chats of having Fulci versus Argento or Argento versus Fulci. And I was like, what the hey? Why don't I just go ahead and do this and get this started? And I think Aaron, when he was doing the Fulci thing, I think it was, Aaron, if you're still in here, was it Tuesdays with Fulci? I'm drawing a blank now. It's awful. And I was on one of the episodes with him. I can't even remember. That's how bad my brain is. X-Ray, you say, I think a better topic is Mattei versus Fragrasso. Maybe we'll do that at another point when I finish these, X-Ray. How would that be? But anyway, because I'm starting this one on a Tuesday, I'm planning on doing these every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And we'll have a new Argento versus Fulci set of movies. And we'll do the same thing where I discuss 2, the first and second, third, fourth, fifth. Hey, Dirk, you are in here. I was saying earlier, I don't know if you were in here listening or you just got in, but I was telling everybody that I watched almost 3 hours of that almost 5.5 hour stream you guys did the other night. And it's really, really good. You guys are very entertaining. I was laughing a lot and very knowledgeable about the movies as well. Um, Darren, you say Martino versus Lindsay would be a good future one. Yes, you guys don't. Let me actually write these down because if I don't write them down, I might forget. I'm even going to write x-rays down. Matei versus Fragrasso. Because, there's only so many Argento and Fulci movies to cover. And then I think it would be cool to move on to something else and just have a whole series of verses streams. So, the Argento movies that we're going to be covering are The Bird with the Crystal Plumage, and keep in mind some of these are Steve's. I just wanted to make sure I had visuals. The Cat o' Nine Tails, Four Flies on Gray Velvet. Those are all Steve's, and these last two are my copies. Deep Red and Suspiria. Now, I realized that I talked about some of these during my Grindhouse stream, which was not very long ago, but I'm going to try to cover these in a little bit different way so you're just not hearing the same information regurgitated all over again, okay? So, the Fulci movies I'm going to be talking about tonight are A Lizard in a Woman's Skin, Don't Torture a Duckling. These are all Steve's. And then two of these are mine. And then the last one is Steve's. Zombie. I know Dirk loves Zombie. The Gates of Hell, a.k.a. City of the Living Dead. And Black Cat, which I just had to refresh myself with a little bit before I did this stream. Durkee said, just got here, Dana. Appreciate that, Dana. The horror was scarce those years for me, anyways. LOL. I really think it was, but I want to watch that. Was it Departure? Was that the movie that several of you guys, or Departed? The Departed. That is a movie I want to watch. I haven't seen it, sadly, but just hearing you guys talk about it, I was like, I want to watch that movie. So I'm going to see if Steve has it. Maybe he has a physical copy of it, or maybe he has it on the hard drive somewhere. Texas, you say Martin versus Sinatra. I may have to get with Steve on that. Do you know he likes Martin and Sinatra music? And I like some of it too, but I was really shocked because I was as shocked about that as I was the fact that pretty much Steve's favorite movie of all time is not a horror movie. It's To Kill a Mockingbird. He loves that movie. Durkee said, I was finishing up my 5-year-old's Friday 13th Roy mask. LOL. Awesome. I'd like to see that, Dirk, when you're finished. Durkee say Black Cat is highly underrated. Well, you're going to get to hear my thoughts on it here in just a little bit. Jason, you say, I love the Black Cat. I wish it would have ended a little bit different, but it's one of the better Black Cat movies out there, in my opinion. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. And I'm going to talk about the Argento one first. Not for any particular reason other than in my head, A comes before F. So, I don't know. I just think it sounded better, Argento versus Fulci. So, I thought I'll talk about the Argento movie and then the Fulci movie. So, we're going to talk about The Bird with the Crystal Plumage. And I'll give you a little bit, because I don't know if I've talked about Bird with the Crystal Plumage in the past. I maybe did. But I'll give you a little bit of a plot on it. So this was 1970. So this was young Dario Argento. He made his mark on Italian cinema with Bird with the Crystal Plumage, a film which redefined the Giallo genre of murder mystery thrillers and catapulted him to international stardom. So, Tony Masante plays a guy named Sam Dalmas, who is an American writer living in Rome who inadvertently witnesses a brutal attack on a woman, played by Eva Renzi, from Funeral in Berlin, in a modern art gallery. Now, I'm just going to stop right there to bring this up. And I'm sure many of you Argento fans already realize this, but anybody that has watched any number of Argento films, especially the Giallo films, of which he's pretty much famous for, things that you see in the films, especially early on, turn out to not be what you really thought you saw. And this is a great example of this because, like I said, Sam thinks he sees a brutal attack on a woman in an art gallery, and he's powerless to help her. He cannot get into where she's at to help her not be attacked. So he essentially thinks that he saw this woman die in front of him, and this haunts him throughout much of the entire movie. So you see this theme coming up a lot in Argento's later films. Deep Red, for one, which we're gonna talk about here in a little while. But I don't want to go too deep into it while I'm talking about this one. So, powerless to help, he grows increasingly obsessed with the incident, and he certainly does. He does get. He cannot think of anything else other than what he perceived to be the murder of the very gory murder of this woman. Convinced that something he saw that night holds the key to identifying the maniac terrorizing Rome. This is again very similar to some of the stuff in Deep Red. He launches his own investigation parallel to that of the police, heedless of the danger to both himself and his girlfriend, Julia, played by Susie Kendall. Okay, so I'm just going to say this because Susie Kendall's name came up in here. I do not like her character in this. I do not. She seems like and you guys may blast me for this, but I think she seems like a totally useless character in this movie. But because all she does is whine and bellyache and carry on, and I don't think she's really understanding of what Sam's going through. And perhaps Argento wanted it to be that way. But I kept, I remember when Steve and I sat down and watched this. I guess we watched it pretty recently whenever he got this 4K, which it does look great, by the way, in the 4K. But I was like, geez Louise, can't this chick have a little sympathy for him? It's like he was all, tore up over this gory murder that he thinks that he saw. She's on, meanwhile, I don't think she says this, but it's like, he's like, I've got to figure out, there's something that I either can't remember or I saw and it's far back in my mind, and I'm keep trying to investigate and keep trying to push myself to remember what this little piece of the puzzle was. And it's like, she's like, let's go out. Let's do this. Let's do that. Just not really caring about him. she just doesn't seem like a very loving girlfriend or a very loving, caring person in general in this movie. Um, like I said, just a very useless character. She does nothing, in my opinion, to move the plot along. She does nothing to help Sam. So, I mean, why even have her? Why didn't they just, you know? I think he gets to the point at one time in the movie where he basically tells her maybe she needs to leave and go back home or something. Um, let's see. Darren, you say Bird with the Crystal Plumage is as good a debut film as anyone has done. It took me a couple of watches to really like it, but now it's one of my fave Argento films. Oh, it is a fantastic film. There's no doubt about it. Don't take my complaints about Susie Kendall as a hatred of this film, because it's not. Jason, you said the plot is especially good in this one, which is not always a big focus in an Argento film. Exactly, Jason. This might be his most Hitchcockian movie. Very Hitchcockian. A lot of Hitchcockian elements in this, and a lot of layers in this one. Dark, you say Bird changed the genre for sure. Enjoy it, but it took a couple watches for me as well. I think it took me a couple of watches to really appreciate it as well. And I think part of that for me was because I had saw some of his later stuff, and it didn't gel in me at first. That, hey, this is like his debut, Dana. You know, he hadn't really honed his craft. So if you think about it in those terms, this is a masterpiece because for a debut film, he was able to create this. I think that's just, like I said, that is a freaking masterpiece. Darren, you say the success of Bird really helped produce all those Giallo films of the early 70s. That's one hell of a golden period, and I'm thankful. Me too, Darren, me too. And Darren, you say you agree it's very Hitchcockian. Yeah, so much of that Hitchcock, I don't guess it would be wrong to say influence in there. Um, so even Arrow says this is a staggeringly assured debut. I mean, yeah, it's obvious. Dario Argento knew exactly what he was doing when he made this, and he knew how to hit all of the bases. And there's really not any filler in this movie. You know how sometimes you watch not necessarily Argento's Giallos, but if you watch, I don't know, I hate to sound like I'm picking on the Mexican or Spanish speaking people, but I have noticed when you watch some of these Spanish Giallos that Steve has introduced me to over the past, I don't know, year and a half or something, um, compared with Argento, I just think they seem a little dry, too much filler. Um, they're overly long. Um, and again, I'm not trying to hate on Spanish people or Spanish directors because I mean I like things like Pieces and a lot of the stuff that Juan Piquer Simone did. I like Edge of the Axe, which is a Spanish slasher, and Steve doesn't much care for Edge of the Axe, but I do. Um, but as far as their Giallos, I when compared with Italian Giallos, I definitely think they're lacking. I mean, some of the Spanish horror is pretty good, but the Spanish Giallos, nah, I would always like to go back to my Italian directors for the Giallos. There was at least one point in time in my life where I thought only Italians were making Giallos, and then there were like things that they considered American Giallos, like Dress to Kill, but I had no idea that the Spanish were making Giallos as well. Durkee said, I love a lot of Spanish horror, but the Giallo is no comparison. Exactly. Yeah. Dirk must be on the same level I am. Darren, you say Argento wasn't going to direct it at first. He was a writer and a film critic. Luckily, his father got behind him, and the rest is history. Yes, and for which all of us horror and Giallo fans are very thankful that everything fell into place and set Argento on the road to making many of the great films that he has made over the years. Um, so, again, guys, because I blabbed so much at the beginning of this, hopefully next Tuesday when I do the next set of these, I won't blab so much at the beginning and get on a mental health trip and all that stuff. And I'll be able to spend more time on the movies. But again, like I said on the last stream I did, I don't want to like feel like I'm beating a dead horse. I know that's a gruesome sounding image, but I want to cover the highlights of the films and talk a little bit about why I appreciate these films, but I don't want to just like that, like I'm running a drill into you. You know, you gotta like this, you gotta like this, you gotta like this. Because no, this is more like a commentary on these films instead of a. I do have sometimes I call things a dissection, but with this stuff especially, I don't want it to be a complete dissection or an evisceration of the movie. I want to cover the highlights, talk a little bit about the plot. I don't think on this that I'm going to talk about the special features. We can save that for another time. I just really want to focus on the movie itself. Now, if it's a 4K, I may tell you how good or bad I think the quality of it is. But other than that, I'm not going to delve too deeply into the special features. I heard some noise. I don't know. It could have been Brandon. But anyway. So this movie is 97 minutes. Not very long at all. So it moves along at a decent pace. The only flaw I can find in it is not Susie Kendall's performance, but just that character of Julia. I just don't care for that. But the rest of the film is a masterpiece, in my opinion, and a great debut film for Dario Argento. Yes, Dirk, I'm glad his papa pushed him too. So, moving on to Fulci, we have A Lizard in a Woman's Skin. This is Steve's Mondo Macabro Blu-ray of this. Yes, you do see that bird in Suspiria. Good eye, Dirk. So Steve does have a limited edition of a red box limited edition of 999 numbered copies. He's got 124 out of 999. So this one came out in 1971. So this is a little bit more sleazy than, and feel free to disagree with me if you think I'm wrong on this, but I think A Lizard in a Woman's Skin is quite a bit more sleazy than Bird with the Crystal Plumage. And I'm going to give you a little plot, and you'll maybe see why I think that. So Carol Hammond is a sexually frustrated wife of a successful London lawyer. We see this a lot in these types of movies. especially from this particular time period, of the sexually frustrated female who's not getting enough from her husband, so she has to go outside of the marriage to get what she needs. And sometimes that's lesbian interaction, sometimes that is uh, a just a man woman relationship, that she gets something from the man she's not getting from her husband. In the case of the lesbian interactions, like that's in the lizard and a woman's skin, um, there's something that only a woman can give her. Okay, so I don't know that from personal experience or anything, um, but Darky say Fulci almost got arrested for the dog scene in that movie. Yeah, yeah, I do remember that. But for some reason, I wasn't thinking it was this one. I was thinking it was one of the others. But yeah, I trust your memory better than I do mine, Dirk. Um, so she's a sexually frustrated wife of a successful London lawyer, and she's having bizarre erotic dreams about her uninhibited neighbor. You know, you always got to have an uninhibited neighbor, right? Julia Durer, who presides over noisy, sex and drug filled parties in the house next door. One night, Carol's dreams culminate in violent death, and she wakes to find her nightmares have become reality. Julia has been murdered, and Carol is the main suspect. Now, as we know with a lot of these movies, things sometimes are not what they seem. And this A Lizard in a Woman's Skin is no exception. It has twists and turns in it. Um, and they talk about it being a psychosexual shocker. You hear that a lot with these types of movies, psychosexual. The those go together with a lot of not only Fulci movies, but some of these other Italian entries into the genre. Darren, you say, A Lizard in a Woman's Skin is another great film from Fulci. It's quite trippy at times, but it all works so well with the sleaze. Not as good as Bird, in my opinion, but solid enough. And Darren, you say, Dirk, that dog scene is pretty gnarly. Yeah, it's starting to come back to me, guys, as y'all are talking about it, unfortunately. Dirk, you say, yeah, I like Lizard. I try to imagine watching these films when they came out in the theater. These films were breaking ground. Yeah, and I think people outside of the circles that we're in don't really get how groundbreaking these films actually were. You're talking about really early 70s here, 70 and 71. That's really early on. We had just gotten out of the 60s at that point. I do remember this being trippy. It almost felt like you were in a drug induced haze through a lot of the entire movie. I mean, the parties this chick was having, all the drug use that was on the screen, the colors that were used, and I'm like Darren though. I enjoy Lizard in a Woman's Skin, but if I was to compare it with Bird with the Crystal Plumage, there really is no comparison. Because to me, Bird with the Crystal Plumage is, dare I say it, a better made film. Okay? And that's really, really giving Argento high praise, because this Lizard in a Woman's Skin was not an early film for Fulci. He had done several other films, albeit westerns and other things before this, but right out of the gate, Argento's coming out with something like Bird with the Crystal Plumage. Fulci, it almost seemed like he was maybe getting a little tired of things before he even got started. And maybe that's a wrong assumption with me. But I know you guys probably appreciate, and I'm not saying this to be offensive. I'm just saying I know guys. I've been with Steve long. We've only been married 9 years, but I've been with him long enough to understand that guys like that girl on girl action. It gets them going. I mean, and it seems sexy and erotic and all of that to them. Heck, they don't want to see some guy's big penis, and all, and some guy's hairy ass on top of a woman. They like how the beautiful women are presented in these films, and they're either half naked or all the way naked, and they're rubbing on each other, and they're kissing each other's boobs, and they're doing all kinds of things. It's just sexy and erotic, and I think guys like that. I just really feel like that gets them turned on. It gets them turned on in a way that I think that's why they like to see lesbian porn as well, because that is just more erotic to them. And I totally get that. I don't think that's a kink. I don't think that's some deviant behavior. I just think that's a natural reaction to two beautiful women seeming to enjoy each other sexually and being erotic with each other. I just think that's what it is. Let's see. Durkee say, at times Fulci and Martino are hard to tell apart, but Argento has his signature on his films. Exactly. Yeah, you can um, definitely find those signature Argento flares in his films. Darren, you say, anyone who hasn't seen it, check out Fulci's Sexy Giallo, one on top of the other, 1969. And I had forgotten, Darren, or I probably would have covered that one, excuse me, but I had forgotten that one on top of the other was actually a Giallo. So I may cover that one a little later. I did see that title come up, and I think Steve has it, but like I said, it totally slipped my mind that it was a Giallo. Dirk, you say, yeah, I haven't seen that yet, Darren, been meaning to. And Darren, you say, Dirk, it's well worth the watch. So I think probably that's one of the reasons why I don't appreciate A Lizard in a Woman's Skin as much as I do A Bird with a Crystal Plumage in this case. Is because, as a straight woman, although watching lesbians be with each other, I will admit is easier than watching, especially in porn. Is easier to watch than a guy and a woman. Uh, just because I don't know, it just seems, the sex seems to me to be more beautiful than it does I'm not trying to be vulgar and dirty, guys. I'm just saying, when you see these porns where a guy is really hammering into a woman, I don't find it sexy. I don't find it erotic. It's just sex. It's just, as Steve would say, it's just fucking. That's all. That's all it is. And my mom would be very disappointed in me if she was to watch this stream and heard me saying this stuff. And that's all it really is, I guess, in lesbian porn, too. But it just seems it seems just a little bit more sensitive, and um, although they're getting off completely on it, in a way, I find it more believable than I do watching these girls, get hammered by these guys with huge penises, and they're just screaming and carrying on and hollering. And to me, as a woman, I don't think that's realistic. I'm not saying that women don't enjoy sex. I'm just saying, to me, that's not really realistic. Because the women do the same thing in every porn. And believe me, since I've been with Steve, I've seen plenty of porn. So, you know, um, but I'm going to get off the porn thing because you guys don't need to hear me talk about that. Um, Darity said the Mondo Macabro Blu-ray is the way to go. Yeah, I think Steve would probably agree with that because this might be the only version of this he has, unless he has a DVD somewhere. Um, Darky said Fulci is definitely sleazier than Argento, I believe. Yeah, and this is no bashing on Fulci, but I do find Argento stuff to be a little more refined than Fulci's. Doesn't mean that I don't like Fulci. It just means that there's not artsy fartsy, just more polished and clean and all of that. It doesn't mean that Argento doesn't dip into the sleaze pool sometimes. He does. There's stuff in Tenebrae that I'm going to talk about on a later stream that's a little sleazy, you know. But that doesn't keep me from loving Tenebrae. I love that movie. Darky say, okay. You say, I have the Mondo of Lizard, just not the special red case. Gotcha. Darren, you say you missed out on the red cases too. And Darren, you said Fulci is more grindhouse. Exactly. Yeah. I don't want to call Argento art house, but like I said, more refined, more polished, where Fulci's a little more rough around the edges. So this frightening discovery is just the beginning of a labyrinthine psychosexual shocker which takes the viewer on a wild ride through a series of frequently breathtaking set pieces that set new standards for the Italian thriller. On its original release, the film was cut in many countries, and its filmmakers were even threatened with prosecution. That's probably the dog scene, over some of the startlingly realistic scenes of gore. So, that's another thing. Fulci never shied away from the gore. If you want pure gore and nothing else sometimes, then definitely go with Fulci. And again, I'm in no way, shape, or form saying that A Lizard in a Woman's Skin sucks as a film or it's not a good film. I'm just saying be aware that there's a little bit more sleaze with your fries, okay, than Bird with the Crystal Plumage in this case. Turkey said Fulci didn't give a shit, I'm guessing. LOL. No, I really don't think he did. In some ways, Argento didn't give a shit either. But I think probably what Fulci was saying was, I could just imagine Fulci sitting around, getting these movies together, and he's thinking, these audiences, they don't care. I don't have to give them plot. I don't have to give them this. I don't have to give them that. I throw a bunch of gore up on the screen and have some hot sex scenes. Call it done for the day. Okay. And sometimes he didn't even have to have those really hot sex scenes. He could throw gore up all over the screen and everybody be like, ah. So, and I'm not saying, again, I'm not saying Fulci wasn't a good filmmaker. He had his finger on the pulse of what people like to watch at that time and what some of us still like to watch. Okay. So he knew what ingredients he needed to put in these films to get them watched. But I am thinking like Dirk that he didn't give a shit. I think he said, I'll put all the ingredients in the pot. I'll put this movie out there, and chances are people are going to be falling all over themselves to watch it. But hey, if they don't, hey, it's my movie, and I don't give a shit. I think that was probably more than likely Fulci's attitude. Fulci is very, very raw. But something I wanted to bring up before I move along to the next pair of movies is I don't know how many of y'all noticed the pictures that I picked to advertise this stream. I found in Argento, a young Argento pic where he has a puppy on his lap. That I think I've seen that picture one other time before. And I was like, this is a great picture to use because never in any other picture have I seen Argento with a puppy. And that just seemed to give a little more softness and sensitivity to Argento. Well, a lot of times when people talk about Argento, like his daughter, Aja, has talked about before about him telling her she didn't want to be an actress, that actors were shit and all that. So I don't think Argento really respected that many people or liked that many people is probably a better way of saying it. And especially actors and actresses. But seeing him with that puppy just, I don't know, it just warmed my heart looking at that. And I was like, I want to show a side of Argento, and maybe nobody paid attention to these pictures at all, but I want to show a side of Argento that maybe nobody even thought about. And the picture of Fulci that I used, he is kissing a woman on a boat. Now, people have said about Fulci over the years that he seemed to hate women, that he seemed to torture women in his movies, and all the bad things that happen, most of them happen to women in his films. As they also would talk about Fulci, that he yelled and screamed at everybody, especially his crew, that he was abusive and this, that, and the other. He was hard to work for. So again, I wanted to show a more sensitive side of Fulci, so I thought that this picture worked well to do that. But you guys, like I said, you may have not even paid that much attention to the pictures, but that's what I was trying to go for with those particular pictures. Durkee say, yeah, I mean, he didn't hold back. It pushed it as far as he could go for the shock value. Yeah, as much as he could get away with. Okay, so moving right along to the next Argento movie, we're going to cover Cat o' Nine Tails. And again, this is Steve's copy, an Arrow release. I think I saw like 2 or 3 different copies of this that he's got, or different versions, but anyway, so let me give you a little bit of a plot on this one. Following the success of The Bird with the Crystal Plumage, distributor Titanus tasked writer and director Dario Argento with delivering a follow-up in short order. The resulting film, granted a greatly enhanced budget and heralded in its U.S. marketing campaign as 9 times more suspenseful than its predecessor, was The Cat o' Nine Tails. So, when a break in occurs at a secretive genetics institute, blind puzzle maker Franco Arno, Carl Malden from Patton and One Eyed Jacks, who overheard an attempt to blackmail one of the Institute's scientists shortly before the robbery, teams up with intrepid reporter Carlo Giordani, played by James Franciscus from Beneath the Planet of the Apes, to crack the case. But before long, the bodies begin to pile up, and the two amateur sleuths find their own lives imperiled in their search for the truth, and worse still, Lori, Cynthia de Carolus from Cannibal Apocalypse, Franco's young niece, may also be in the killer's sights. This is the second entry in the so-called Animal trilogy, found Argento further refining his distinctive style and cementing his reputation as the master of the Giallo thriller. Co-starring Catherine Spack and Rada Rosimov, and featuring another nerve-jangling score by the great Ennio Morricone, who also did music for Bird with the Crystal Plumage and The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. The Cat o' Nine Tails remains one of Argento's most suspenseful and underrated films. Now, I'll be honest with you guys. You know, I love Argento. I love, love, love Argento. But I've seen this movie at least 2 to 3 times. And it does have some good suspense in it. Has some good set pieces in it. But I do consider this one to be a little more dry and a little bit slower than some of these other films that I'm going to talk about tonight, and some of the other films that I'm going to talk about in the upcoming weeks. So let's just say I've never been a really huge fan of this particular movie. I like it, but I don't love it. Okay. And this is probably going to be one of the few cases where I'll be able to say that the Fulci film I'm going to cover next I like better than this one. Again, it deals with a lot of the same Argento themes. The guy is blind in this case, so he's only able to hear things and not see anything. So it's not a case of, did I see what I thought I saw, or there's something missing, I should be able to remember it and I can't. This guy is purely relying on auditory clues and what he remembers from those auditory clues to be able to figure out what is going on, who the killer is, why they're killing, etc. It does have the typical twists and turns along the way, which I do enjoy. I just don't find the story, I guess, as compelling as other Argento films. This one is a little longer too than I think it needed to be at 112 minutes. But like I said, it does have the Argento stamp on it. It does have those great set pieces. It does have suspense in it, and it has those twists and turns. I just, like I said, I feel like it's a little bit, little long, a little bit more dry, and slow compared with Argento's other films. And dare you say, it must be an Italian thing. Argento, Fulci, Lindsay, and Deodato are all nobly really hard on their actors. Yeah, and it could be. Darren, you say, The Cat o' Nine Tails is one of my least favorite Argento films. It's very bland. Exactly, Darren. Almost TV-like at times. He himself doesn't like the film. Jason, you say, I agree, Darren. I think this one was rushed, and it just doesn't stick with me. So you guys seem to be thinking kind of the same way I do. Darren, you say that train death is the one standout. His leading man wasn't as good as his other films. Carl Malden was great, though. So I think we're all pretty much. I haven't really heard what Dirk thinks about it. Um, but it seems like pretty much all of us in here are. You say cat of nine is weak. Okay. So I'm not completely out of my gourd, I guess, when I say this stuff, because you guys seem to be on that same train with me. So, okay. So we're going to move right along to the next Fulci film, which is Don't Torture a Duckling. This, yes, is Steve's copy. And this is an Arrow release. Looks great, in my opinion. I think Steve's favorite part of this, and he'd probably laugh at me if he knew I was saying it. I think Steve's favorite part of this movie is the fact that Barbara Boucher is naked in it a lot. And he loves Barbara Boucher. Probably not as much as Edwidge Fenwick, but it's pretty damn close. Jason, you say, I love the new art on the Arrow release, though. Darren, you say, Don't Torture a Duckling is Fulci's masterpiece. Well, I personally wouldn't call it his masterpiece. I'm going to get to two of them here in a little bit that I think tie for his masterpiece, in my opinion. But Don't Torture a Duckling is a very, in my opinion, well-made film. So I'm going to give you a little plot on Don't Torture a Duckling. If you guys have seen it a gazillion times, please bear with me while I do this. So from Lucio Fulci, the godfather of gore, comes one of the most powerful and unsettling Giallo thrillers ever produced. His 1972 masterpiece, Don't Torture a Duckling. And Darren, they said it just like you did. When the sleepy rural village of Asindura is rocked by a series of murders of young boys, I think that is what makes this movie stand out too, is the fact that young boys are being murdered in this movie. And then when you find out who is actually doing the murders, it's even worse. The superstitious locals are quick to apportion blame, with the suspects including the local witch, played by Florinda Bolkin, from A Lizard in a Woman's Skin. The local witch is named Machiara. With the bodies piling up and the community gripped by panic and a thirst for bloody vengeance, two outsiders, a city journalist, Andrea, Thomas Milan, from the Four of the Apocalypse, which, by the way, although we're not going to be talking about Fulci's Westerns, I will say Steve introduced me to that early on, and I love that Western. And spoilt rich girl Patrizia, who is played by none other than Barbara Boucher from The Red Queen Kills 7 Times, team up to crack the case. But before the mystery is solved, more blood will have been spilled, and not all of it belonging to the innocents. Deemed shocking at the time for its brutal violence, depiction of the Catholic Church, and themes of child murder and pedophilia, Don't Torture a Duckling is widely regarded today as Fulci's greatest film, rivaling the best of his close rival, Dario Argento. Arrow Video is proud to present this uniquely chilling film in its U.S. high-definition debut. Again, though, I will say that there is a layer of sleaze to this. And don't try to talk me out of it, because I laugh every time I see this scene, because who knows, maybe Fulci was allowing this little boy to look at Barbara Boucher's naked body. Who knows? You know, this is Italy. So, but there is, and I think it's either one really long scene or it's multiple scenes where Barbara Boucher is just stretched out there, naked as the day she was born, and having this little boy bring her something to drink because it's so hot. But I guess she's like tanning or something. I don't know. Um, but she is a spoiled rich girl. But it's also, those scenes are just so amusing to me. And I think you need those, even though they are sleazy. You do need those, I think, to balance the horrific child murders in this. Um, let's see. Texas, you say that movie is amazing. Jason, you say, I actually didn't like Don't Torture a Duckling the first time I saw it, but the more times I saw it, the more I got out of it, and now I think it's great. Yeah, I think this one had to grow on me too, Jason. I didn't dislike it the first time I watched it, but I think it took more than one viewing before everything kind of sunk in. Um, Darky say, Don't Torture a Duckling has so many twists and red herrings on first watch. I was blown away. Exactly. Darren, you said the rule setting, the cast, and the disturbing child murders all add up to an incredible film. Mark Perel sadly died way too young at the age of 33. Barbara Boucher, enough said. Yeah, that's what Steve would say too. I didn't realize that the one guy died so early. That is sad. Dirk, you say, it's in my top 5 Fulcis. Darren, you said, this and House by the Cemetery are my top 2. Dargy said, yeah, Fulci really was doing something completely different than his competition on this one. Hi, Reggie. Reggie's coming to see everybody again. Do you want to say hello, Reggie? Do you want to say hello? He's a little shy sometimes. Sometimes he'll raise up here and poke his head in, but you don't want to be on the camera? Okay. Well, I'm going to continue talking about this film, okay? All right. So, Texas, you say the kid was probably an alcoholic and smoking cigarettes, so it didn't matter if he was watching her. Jason, you say, it's definitely a film where I think Fulci is making a statement. There's more to it than just the sleaze. Yeah, I don't think it's really sleaze heavy. I would say that probably Lizard in a Woman's Skin is more sleazy than Don't Torture a Duckling. Don't Torture a Duckling is definitely more disturbing. But I agree with you guys that all of the different elements seem to serve as building blocks to create this one masterful film. I do think it's one of Fulci's best films and probably one of his most coherent films. You know, not a fun film by any stretch of the imagination. It's very dark, very disturbing. But as far as a complex plot, kind of more plot driven, sensical film, a film that actually goes from point A to point B to point C to point D without you getting lost along the way. But I do agree it does have a whole shitload of red herrings in it. But I think that is what makes it great, is the fact that just when you think you might have things figured out, it does a complete 360 and you're right back to where you started because things aren't going the way that you thought, or they're not going in the direction that you thought they were going. Darren, you say Fulci's wife died not long before making this film, and he was making a statement against the Catholic Church. Oh, that's definitely clear. He was not. Fulci was definitely not happy with the Catholic Church at this point in time. But I think it's great that he didn't feel like he had to be inhibited. He was going to do things his way, and if he wanted to make a statement about the Catholic Church, who was anybody to say that he couldn't do that? He was going to do it. And I think he did it really well. He made that statement really well and incorporated it really well into this film. Darky say, yeah, for sure. A big statement about the Catholic Church for sure, and the way people can go into a mob mentality and react too soon before knowing the actual truth. Exactly. You know, I think Americans could take a page from Fulci's book when this movie's concerned. I mean, I hope nobody takes offense at that, but you know, people are always, and again, I'm not trying to get political or anything, but again, since Trump was president, I think things have gotten worse about that lynch mob mentality and the witch hunts and all that stuff. It's just insane. So yeah, I think all these Trump supporters need to sit down and watch Don't Torture a Duckling. What do you guys think? Jason, you say it's an expression of just pure misanthropy, almost like the New York Ripper. Every character is compromised in some way. Yeah, compromised or damaged. Even Barbara Boucher's character is damaged or, as you say, compromised in this movie. She's beautiful and everything, but there's something that down deep is damaged in her. So, yes, I completely agree with you guys on all points that Don't Torture a Duckling is a masterpiece, a great Fulci film, um, one of his best for sure. Um, so, before we move on, guys, do you want me to do y'all all have has everybody that's in here right now, have you seen Don't Torture a Duckling? I mean, I know Dirk has, I know Darren has, Jason, Texas, um, but do you guys want me to reveal who the killer is in this, or do you want me to just not tell that? Dirk, you say, damn, I need that slip, lol. Yeah, isn't that cool? That's awesome, isn't it? um, Darren, you say the Florinda Balkan death scene is heartbreaking. Yeah, yeah. It, yeah, that's coming back to me now as you're talking about that. It is. It's really, um, I don't know. It's kind of torturous to watch a little bit. Texas, you say Joel Austin is the killer. Oh, oh man. I mean, I'll say it if you guys want me to, but if you don't want me to, I won't do that. Um, so I take it maybe you guys don't want me to reveal that. So um, yeah, definitely. If you haven't seen Don't Torture a Duckling, I highly, highly recommend it. And we'll have to say that in the case of this, compared with Cat of Nine Tails, in my opinion, this is the better movie. Darren, you say go ahead and say it? All right. Darren says go ahead and say it. So the killer, it turns out, is the priest in this movie. And I hate to say this, but in case someone watches the replay, Dirk says, okay. Um, yeah, that way, I gave them a little bit of warning. Hey, I'm going to tell you who the killer is. But that is the one death in the movie that I know that Fulci, he obviously didn't mean for it to be funny, but do y'all feel like that is the most unintentionally funny death? The way that it's painful looking too, but some of those close up shots just I shouldn't laugh, but I do. So I just wanted to know what y'all thought about that death scene. Dirk, you say I love it, laughing my ass off. Oh. So y'all go ahead and keep chatting in there about any of these movies or anything else you want to talk about. Sparks flying, exactly. I'm going to move along to the third Argento film in this group. Jason, you say it does look funny. And that is Four Flies on Gray Velvet. And this is Steve's shameless Blu ray, evidently. Um, Darren, you say, yeah, there's a similar dummy death in the Psychic. Yeah, I'd forgotten about that. I'm going to have to rewatch the Psychic, actually, at some point. So, yeah, I'm looking at some of the pictures back here. Okay, so again, I'll give y'all a little bit of a plot. Uh, who is the deranged maniac persecuting and mentally torturing celebrated rock musician Roberto Tobias, played by Michael Brandon? First, he's implicated in a horrifying stabbing and is soon surrounded by other senseless slaughter. The last strange images captured on one murder victim's eye retina contain the only clue to the demented criminal manipulator. And their identity will take Roberto over the edge of sanity to a shock horror peak in Dario Argento's classic Giallo thriller. The homicidal frenzy completed Argento's revered animal trilogy that dubbed him the Italian Hitchcock, leading to Suspiria and his worldwide master of horror reputation, and Argento's unmistakable flair for creating fear in a lavish style is on stunning show in his slick, sick, primal scream with a shattering slow-motion climax given further operatic violence by one of genius Ennio Morricone's most memorable scores. So, this does have Mimsy Farmer in it, and like, I don't know how many of you guys are Mimsy Farmer fans, but I don't think Steve has ever been such a fan of her. Now, I think she has. I just rewatched her in The Black Cat, and I think she has beautiful eyes. And she has a pretty face. But I think Steve's big beef with her is the fact that I don't think I've seen her in any movie where she has long hair. She always has the short blonde hair. And but I think she's really good in this. I like the. He had a rock band in this one. In Deep Red, he has a jazz band led by David Hemmings. So I could be wrong, but I don't think Steve likes this as well as some other Argento picks. But I really like what Argento did with it. Like I said, I like the rock band, having the rock band in there. I really like the twist in this. I honestly, the first time I saw Four Flies on Great Velvet, I did not see that twist coming. And maybe I'm dense, but I sure as heck didn't see the twist coming in this one. I'd like to hear what you guys think about it. Did you, if you saw that twist coming or not? You probably can't see this picture very well, but there's a naked shot there. So you're definitely going to get to see some female nudity in here. So for you guys, that's going to be good. And yeah, like I said, I'm not going to spend too long on each one of these, but you know, it's going to be damn hard for me to make a pick about which one of these plus the next Fulci one I'm going to cover is my favorite, but I know which one. I'm staring at it right now. I know which one I'm going to have to go with. But again, I'd love to know what you guys think of Four Flies on Gray Velvet. Because like I said, I'm sure Steve's not the only one, but he just doesn't seem to be as excited about this movie as he has other Argento movies. Um, this one is only 99 minutes and 7 seconds, which I think is kind of odd. So it's not really that long. Carlo Rambaldi did the special effects. He's the guy that did special effects for Alien and E.T. I don't know. I feel like this one hits all the bases. It's not too ultra sleazy. Um, Again, I like the introduction of the rock band. You know, um, like the soundtrack or score or whatever you want to call it. Yeah, this one hits all the bases for me. Like the twist at the end, did not see that one coming. So I'm going to look and see what you guys think about this. Um, oh, y'all have been really chatting here. Let's see. Let me move this up a little bit. Jason, you say, I like this movie and I was hoping it would come out on Arrow because I don't really want to get the shameless release. But, yeah, that's probably why Steve has got this release. And Durkee said, that's the only way I know where to get that one. Great underrated Argento. Darren, you say, Four Flies has grown on me over the years. The ending to that film is one of the best ever made, in my opinion. I agree, Darren. That slow motion, it's almost like you can see every detail to that final shot. And it is almost excruciatingly beautiful to watch. And for those of you that have seen it, you probably know what I'm talking about here. Jason, you say, it's just, I hate that ugly yellow case. Yeah, it doesn't look too good on in front of my green screen either. Dirk, you say, agreed, Darren. Dirk, you say, Chalupa is what's on the inside that matters. That's what my mama told me. LOL. Darren said, there's so much to love here. Mimsy Farmer has two acting facial expressions. Darren, you say, Brandon is a good leading man, too. I think so, too. And kind of a switch from, I guess more traditional leading men. Darren, you say, Mimsy Farmer is much better in The Perfume of the Lady in Black and Autopsy. Yes, she was in Body Count, Jason. You're exactly right. Maybe at some point I will talk about Body Count. Darren, you say she's awful in Body Count. Isn't she married to David Hess in that movie, or his character in that movie? Oh, goodness. Okay. So, one other thing I wanted to bring up about this before I move on to the Fulci entry is I loved the fact that the key to the murder was in a victim's retina. I mean, who else comes up with that other than Argento? He's awesome. So anyway, I'll quit talking about Four Flies on Grey Velvet and move on to the Fulci entry, which I'm sorry, guys, I'm going to have to say this is my favorite of the two. Zombie. I love this. I love, 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 love Zombie. Darren, you say it's genius Argento. I agree. I agree with that. So, I know it almost feels like I just talked about Zombie, so I'm probably not going to go on too awfully long about it, but I do know that Dirk likes this movie, or loves this movie. So, At least me and Dirk will like me talking about it again. Okay, so in Italy, it was considered the unofficial sequel to Dawn of the Dead. In England, it was known as Zombie Flesh Eaters and banned as obscene. In America, it was called Zombie and advertised with the depraved tagline, "We are going to eat you." Tisa Farrell from The Grim Reaper, Ian McCullough from Contamination, Al Cliver from Cannibals, and Al Cliver is also in The Black Cat, which I'm going to talk about here shortly. And Richard Johnson from The Haunting star in this worldwide splatter sensation directed by the maestro of gore, Lucio Fulci, House by the Cemetery, New York Ripper, that remains one of the most eye-skewering, skin-ripping, gore-gushingly graphic horror hits of all time. So, yeah. Where else can you see a zombie that looks like this? Where else can you see a shark and a zombie go head to head? Where else can you see a splinter slowly going into a woman's eye? I could go on, but I won't. But what can you say other than this is a freaking zombie masterpiece? And Fulci was at the helm of this, guys. The first time I watched this was probably, it was either on a VHS or DVD. I can't recall which at this point in time. But nothing amazed me more than when this sucker came out on Blu-ray. And I know I've talked about this before, but it's just the most amazing thing to me is how can you make a movie from 1979 look that freaking good? And how can you even top it when it comes out on 4K? But they did. Blue Underground, I love you guys. I mean, their stuff's expensive, I know that. But man, do they do a good job. They do a damn good job with their releases. I have yet to find a release that isn't good. If you guys can find one, feel free to share. But, yeah, this has to be my favorite of the two that I've just talked about. Even though I love Four Flies on Grey Velvet, I gotta say, Zombie is my favorite of the two in this case. Darren, you say Zombie is the better of the two for sure. It's better than Dawn of the Dead too. But I know how Darren feels about Dawn of the Dead. So Jason, you say, yeah, Zombie is good. It has amazing set pieces that are never before seen and will never be seen again either. I don't think a movie like this, even though we've kind of moved into like nobody gives a shit what is put into movies anymore, I just don't think a movie like this would get made. Because everybody's got to have, well, not everybody, but the public at large that has decided all of a sudden that they like zombies, it's got to have their zombies a little more polished, a little more refined. No, I don't need that. So they would not appreciate the 1979 zombie movie, Zombie, done by Lucio Fulci. Darren, you say that scene with the crab walking across the scene is fantastic too. Yes, that is. I mean, there are just so many cool shots in this movie, and like the Blu-ray and then the 4K just improved upon those scenes even more. I still don't know how they did it. There must have been a freaking excellent print of this movie that Blue Underground was able to get their hands on. So, again, it's a little bit after 10, and I don't want to, and I did talk about Zombie pretty recently, so I'm not going to go on and on about it, other than to say, between Four Flies on Grey Velvet and Zombie, Zombie is my pick. Although I love Four Flies on Grey Velvet. Okay? Um, so these next two, I'm probably going to have to call a tie because there's just no way. There's just no way. But maybe you guys can help me have a tiebreaker. So the Argento film we want to talk about next is Deep Red, and this is my 4K Arrow release, which, by the way, this looks fantastic. Okay, so believe it or not, gentlemen and ladies, if there's any ladies in here watching, this was my first foray into Argento world. This was the first Argento film that I ever saw. And it was really my introduction to Argento. So I definitely did not watch his films in order. But this kind of sealed the deal for me with Argento. I was like, I don't really know who this guy is yet, but he is a freaking master. Okay? I love this movie. My mom would always, kind of joke with me that she didn't understand why I like these foreign horror films, these Italian ones and stuff like that. She always thought they were of lesser quality, I guess, than the American films. Hey, John, you say, hey, all, writing back from McKay's, but just wanted to chime in that Argento is king, Deep Red is a masterpiece, Fulci is good, but there's no compassion to Dario, in my opinion. Or comparison, probably. John, you say, I will catch stream tomorrow, no offense to Fulci fans. None taken, John, none taken. And, yeah, I hope you can you get a chance to catch it tomorrow. We are going to continue these until I run out of Argento and Fulci movies to cover. So you'll have plenty of opportunities on the upcoming Tuesdays to delve into Argento and Fulci with us. Okay, so let me give you a little bit of a plot about Deep Red. From Dario Argento, maestro of the macabre and the man behind some of the greatest excursions in Italian horror, Suspiria, the bird with the crystal plumage, comes Deep Red, what they call the ultimate Giallo movie. One night, musician Marcus Daly, played by David Hemmings from Blow Up, looking up from the street below, witnesses the brutal axe murder of a woman in her apartment. Racing to the scene, Marcus just manages to miss the perpetrator. Or does he? Another one of those things where, did we just see what we really think we saw, and what we thought was one thing might turn out to be something else? As he takes on the role of amateur sleuth, Marcus finds himself ensnared in a bizarre web of murder and mystery where nothing is what it seems. Aided by a throbbing score from regular Argento collaborators, Goblin, who just hit this one out of the ballpark with this soundtrack. I mean, this score, it is awesome. Deep Red, aka Profondo Rosso and the Hatchet Murders, is a hallucinatory fever dream of a giallo punctuated by some of the most astonishing set pieces the subgenre has to offer. And that is definitely no lie, because I know I said this was my introduction to Argento. I didn't even know who the guy was before watching this movie. But boy, that was one hell of an introduction to a director, because this does have fantastic, morbidly beautiful and gory set pieces that I've said before about a lot of Argento stuff. It's almost like artwork, guys. It should be hanging in an art museum somewhere. Like, stills from this movie should be hanging in an art museum somewhere. I kid you not. Argento has a definite flair for set pieces, for design, color, because everything works perfectly in his films. Even the ones that I don't like as much as some of the others, the stuff still works. And two other things I wanted to bring up about Deep Red is these creepy ass dolls that show up and the Mad Puppet. Everybody's got to love the Mad Puppet. Okay? I love the Mad Puppet so much that I want to create my own Mad Puppet, but I just haven't been able to get all the materials yet. Maybe by Halloween, maybe I'll be able to, or around Halloween, I'll be able to get the materials to make my own Mad Puppet. Because I love that little stuff. um, and also, in addition to um, the Goblin score, is the la 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 la. I can't do it exactly, but the music that Marcus or Mark keeps hearing, the children's record that he gets and listens to before people are killed, and before he he narrowly escapes being killed more than once in this movie. He hears this and he goes to a record store and he finds the children's record. And at the end, of course, everything's tied up real neatly with a bow, albeit a bloody bow. But, but this film is fantastic. That's why it's going to be, I don't think I'm going to be able to pick a favorite between these two. Just because Deep Red is so perfect, in my opinion. And although the Fulci film I'm getting ready to talk about is not perfect, I just love it so much. So it's going to be hard for me to say one of these is my favorite over the other. Hey, Wes, you say you're late to the party. Oh, that's okay. We've got a couple more films to, a couple more films to cover after this set. So you didn't miss it all. Darren, you say, I'm not as big a fan of Deep Red as everyone else. Don't get me wrong. I still really like it. The longer version with the dialogue scenes and humor with Daria Nicoletti didn't quite work for me. Now, I, on the other hand, enjoy that. And that's usually the version I will watch. I don't know. I just find something endearing about that. And maybe other people feel like they don't need that in the film. Darren, you say the scene early on when we see the killer hiding is one of the best scenes ever in a Giallo film. I would agree with that too. Jason, you say I've seen it so many times that I don't love it as much. Bird and Tenebrae have improved over time to me. It's good though, definitely. And we are going to talk about Tenebrae, not tonight, but in the upcoming weeks we're going to be talking about it. What she say, had UB been in here and professed his love for Dracula 3D? Well, he was in here earlier. He may still be watching. He's just not chatting. But no, he didn't say anything about Dracula 3D. Darren, you say the demise of the killer, too, is superb. I agree. That's a great death. What she say, create me a mad puppet, too, Darren. Well, if you want to give me the money for the supplies, because I would imagine it's going to be pretty damn expensive, and I would do one for you. Hey, TJ. Glad you got made it in here. Okay, so as promised, I'm not going to keep going, on and on ad nauseum about any of these films. Because even though I'm off tomorrow, everybody's got to get some rest. So I don't want to keep anybody from getting their beauty rest now. So moving right along to the Fulci film, and you guys will see when I show this why I find it hard to pick a favorite between the two. And this is The Gates of Hell, aka City of the Living Dead. I had to get this. Well, Steve would have said, you didn't have to get it. I already had it. But man, look. I just love the Gates of Hell title, the slip cover for this. I think it may have some different extras. And this, of course, is the original cover art. And two, damn, I just wanted the movie under the Gates of Hell title, which is what I originally saw this movie under. So that really brings the nostalgia factor back. And you guys may think I'm completely goofy talking that way about it. But Scorpion Releasing put this out. And I do have the City of the Living Dead version. Was it Blue Underground that put that one out? And it looks great and everything. I just, I don't know, call me goofy. I wanted to have both. Jason, you say I picked City of the Living Dead, hands down. Darren, you say that's too close for me to call. If I pushed, I would possibly say City. Yeah, I just can't. It's too close for me to call, Darren, and I just can't do it. So I'm just sorry, guys. I'm going to have to call it a tie with this one. And a big part of The Gates of Hell for me might be the nostalgia thing. The thing I brought up many, many times before about this was a movie that my dad talked about, him and my mom seeing at the drive-in. I heard about it all the time growing up until I was finally able to rent it. I found it, a big box at a video store, because you don't get to take those badass big boxes home. But if anybody finds a big box of The Gates of Hell in good shape and it doesn't, I won't have to sell my body. I'm just kidding. To be able to buy it, could you please let me know if somebody sees it on eBay or somewhere else where it's reasonable? So again, let me give a little plot on this movie. The 7 gates of hell have been torn open, and in 3 days the dead shall rise and walk the earth. As a reporter, Christopher George from Grizzly and Mortuary and Pieces, and a psychic, Catriona McCall from House by the Cemetery and the Beyond, race to close the portals of the damned. They encounter a seething nightmare of unspeakable evil. The city is alive with the horrors of the living dead. Directed and co-written by the legendary Italian godfather of gore, Lucio Fulci, Zombie, The Beyond, The New York Ripper, The City of the Living Dead features some of the maestro's most shocking and controversial sequences of all time. Yes, and what else can you say about The Gates of Hell? This is one badass of a movie. You know, you have stuff even happening in this movie, for instance, the head drill scene, that really has nothing to do with the zombies. It's just like a side bit of gore that Fulci just said, fuck it, I'm going to throw it in here. And you guys can either like it or hate it, but at the end of the night, I'm still standing. Okay? Christopher George is great in this. Catriona McCall is great in this. What other movie also do you have a girl vomiting up her entire intestinal tract? Okay? Where else can you see that? And I really think Fulci was trying to make a statement about the Catholic Church with this movie as well, because not only do we have an evil priest come back from the dead and making people puke up of their entire intestinal tract and turning people into zombies, but we also have the guy committing one of the ultimate sins by hanging himself at the very beginning. And that's what sets everything in motion. So, um, TJ, you say, I first saw it on VHS as Gates. It's better than the cleaned up version for nostalgia's sakes, just because of the gritty full screen VHS look. And Jason, you say it's a real horror movie. Yes. Um, Evil priest oxymoron, LOL. Right. Exactly. Okay. So, I told you I wasn't going to stay on any one of these for too awfully long. We've got two more to cover before I'm done with this stream. But these last two, like I said, I'm going to have to call it a tie between The Gates of Hell and Deep Red. I'm sorry. I can't pick, guys. So we're going to move on to the last two. And the Argento pick is Suspiria, which I can tell you now, this is going to be my favorite of the two. Okay. Suspiria also, although not my favorite Argento movie, has some fantastic, morbidly beautiful, gory set pieces that, again, I think stills from this movie should be in an art museum or an art gallery. This being one of them. I mean, just so they are gory, they are bloody, they are morbid, but they are also beautiful too. And again, the colors in Suspiria, right on target. The music, right on target. Jessica Harper, I think, is great as the lead in this movie. Actually, the guy Tim Salmons from the Digital Bits, he says this is one of the most beautiful horror films ever made, and I would have to agree with this guy. And this release is one of the most beautiful Blu-ray releases ever mounted by any distribution company, big or small. This is the definitive release of the film to own, bar none. This is the 4K put out by Synapse Films. So, again, a little plot. Jessica Harper, Phantom of the Paradise and Pennies from Heaven, stars in this frightening tale of a young student who uncovers dark and horrific secrets within the walls of a famous German dance academy. What spirals out from that simple premise is one of the most powerful and hallucinatory nightmares ever captured on celluloid. Dario Argento's Suspiria comes to home video from Synapse Films, an exclusive new 4K restoration from the original uncut, uncensored 35mm Italian camera negative. So, yeah. And it does, as I've said before, have a Dolby Atmos remix. But again, I'm not going to go deeply into the special features like I usually do. I'm just going to say this is one hell of a film and one hell of a ride. I literally can't say anything bad about the film. The only thing less than positive that I can say about it is it's not my favorite Argento film. But it's up there near the top. I will say that. All around fantastic film. I highly recommend it to you if you have not seen it. If it's been a while since you've seen it, yeah. Like I always say, pull that sucker back out. If you don't have a copy, run, don't walk, and get this movie and watch it. Let's see. Darren, you say it's no coincidence that Fulci's wife took her own life. Right. Darren, you say Suspiria is probably my favorite film of all time. Jason, you say Suspiria is great and the plot is not nearly as flimsy as a lot of people say. The more you watch and pick up on things, there's more to it, and it leaves you wanting more, but makes sense. Exactly. Yes, TJ, I had forgotten about that. Harper does have a cool little cameo in the remake, even though I don't care for the remake, and I may be in the minority there too. Okay, so I don't keep you guys too awfully long, we're going to talk about the last Fulci offering for tonight, and that is the Black Cat, which was the one that I had to do a little refresher for before I did this stream. Um, this has a really well known set of actors in this one, or at least um, I can say well known as far as like Italian cinema, uh, and also British cinema in some cases. Patrick McGee is in here, Mimsy Farmer, David Warbeck, Al Cliver. It's based on, probably loosely based on the story by Edgar Allan Poe. Uh, Pino Donaggio did the music, and it's directed by none other than Lucio Fulci. Um, that Danalia Doria, I may be massacring her name, is also in this. And from what I remember from just rewatching this, is she has a kind of gruesome death in this one. But usually I'm a huge fan of all things Edgar Allan Poe. But the Black Cat story, in and of itself, always seemed a little weak to me, even for a Poe story. And so that's not all. It's not ever been at the top of my favorite Poe stories, and so the reason why I say this is loosely based is I have read quite a bit of Edgar Allan Poe over the years, and Edgar Allan Poe was never that gory, not as gory as some of the scenes in The Black Cat. A guy gets spooked by the cat and falls on these spikes in a barn. That Daniela Doria, or how you pronounce her name, and her lover in the movie get locked in a really tight room with no ventilation and end up, I guess, having some kind of seizures or something and dying naked. So, that's pretty gruesome. Um, Poor David Warbeck gets attacked by a cat multiple times in the face and then gets run over by a car. He lives, but, it's pretty rough for him. Mimsy Farmer, she escapes, the wrath of the Black Cat through most of the movie, but then ends up towards the end getting walled up in a cellar, which did not remind me of the Black Cat story by Edgar Allan Poe, but actually reminded me of the Cask of Amontillado, which was another Edgar Allan Poe story where a guy is lured to his death, who's given alcohol until he's so drunk that a guy that despises him is able to wall him up in his cellar. I think it might be a wine cellar or something, because the guy is so obnoxious and annoys so many people. He finally annoys the wrong person, and that person kills him. Let me read a little bit of the plot for The Black Cat. The creepy supernatural shocker from the director of City of the Living Dead and the Beyond. The townspeople of a small English village begin to die in a series of horrible accidents, and a Scotland Yard inspector arrives to investigate. But when suspicion falls on a mysterious local medium who records conversations with the dead, the grisly deaths take on a sinister twist. Is it a deranged murder on the loose, or is an even more shocking evil silently stalking the night? Dagmar Lassender is also in this movie, and Al Cliver. as well. I believe Al Cliver plays a cop in this. And there's a really funny scene when David Warbeck first shows up, and he's the cop from, or inspector or whatever from Scotland Yard. And he gets a ticket from the cop in this village. And I think David Warbeck's character is at first like, hey, you're not really going to give me a ticket, are you? And he literally writes out the ticket and he says, should I give the ticket to you, sir, or should I send it to Scotland Yard? And the look that David Warbeck gives him is so funny. I just laughed out loud at that scene and did enjoy that scene. That was a little bit of a lighthearted little blip in the movie that's otherwise pretty dark and gruesome. Um, and Mimsy Farmer plays a photographer in the movie. Um, and when we first see her, she's visiting this village, taking pictures of the ruins, as they say. But she goes down into an open crypt, and why she does this, I don't know, really. I mean, I'm guessing maybe she wants to get some pictures down there, but it's like Al Cliver comes along and he's like, ma'am, you might want to stay out of there. It's, not a good place for you to be. And I don't think, no matter if I was a photographer or not, I don't think I'm going to be going down into any crypts or anything. But sadly, I was just not real thrilled with this movie. It had a couple of kind of gory deaths, but it didn't really feel my Edgar Allan Poe fix, and it didn't really feel my Fulci fix. So, it's not a completely horrible film, but it's not one of Fulci's best, and the story that it's loosely based on is not one of Edgar Allan Poe's best. I just got to be honest about that. So, let's see. Darren, you said The Black Cat is Fulci's most underrated film. It's Fulci done Hammer style. Yeah, I could see that, Darren. TJ, you say Italians are very clumsy in these horror movies. Jason, you say, I love the idea of the cat being supernatural. I like to think that the cat is actually a demon from similar to the necromancer in the film. That's interesting. You say it seems that way for a while, but I think there was a blander explanation at the end of the movie. Yeah, kind of. Jason, you say there's some Lovecraft inspiration going on. I could see the Lovecraft inspiration. Darren, you say, I didn't like The Black Cat on the first viewing till somebody told me to give it another go. I love it now. Now, I think I've seen it twice now. Once a while back with Steve. And then just before I did this live stream, I finished it up again. And perhaps I'll wait a while and then watch it again. This is actually Steve's DVD copy. It's an Anchor Bay copy that was part of the Lucio Fulci collection. So, yeah, I may want to revisit it, maybe wait a month or two and then revisit again and see how I like it then. So, with that being said, I have finished this first grouping of Argento versus Fulci. And I think we've had a really excellent conversation about these movies. Some of us we thought the same on, some of us we thought differently on, but I love all the different opinions that everybody has had. So I want to tell you what we're going to be, the movies that we're going to be covering, in case you want to go back and rewatch any of these before I do my stream next Tuesday. The Argento films I'm going to cover are Inferno, Tenebrae, Phenomena, Opera, and Two Evil Eyes. And I know Two Evil Eyes gets a lot of backlash, or I feel like it gets a lot of backlash. The Fulci movies we're going to cover for week 2 are The Beyond, House by the Cemetery, New York Ripper, Manhattan Baby, and Murder Rock. So if you guys want to brush up on any and all of those movies before next Tuesday, when we'll be having another Argento versus Fulci entry. Tomorrow, again, I will be at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. I will be doing my Cheese Extreme Wednesday. I will be covering Memorial Valley Massacre and Microwave Massacre. And on Sunday, I almost said Sunday again. And on Saturday, starting at either 6 or 7, depending on if Steve does his stream or not, I will be doing a Slaughter High watch along. So those are the upcoming things that are in my wheelhouse right now. I hope you guys are able to join me for those. I thank each and every one of you for joining me tonight for almost 3 hours. Not all of that, almost 3 hours, was talking about Argento and Fulci, but the majority of it was. So I hope y'all enjoyed this. I hope if you didn't get to see this or didn't get to stay for all of it, that you can catch it on the replay. Well, thank you, Darren. That always makes me feel good. I'm not doing these necessarily say, oh, Dana, you're great, you're awesome. But, it makes me feel like I want to continue doing these when people, say that they enjoy them, or in Darren's case, he said, cool stream again. Because that's what I want to do. I want you guys to feel like it's worth your time to watch. I don't want you to feel like you came in here and I bored you to tears. That's not what we want to do here. So thanks, guys, again for hanging out with me for almost 3 hours. And I think I'm going to, on that note, I think I'm going to skedaddle on out of here. Thank you, Texas. You said the Screen Queen rules again. Well, thank you for saying so. Thank you, Jason. I appreciate that. Yes, TJ. I hope everybody will stop by tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern Time for some cheese. It's going to be cheesy in here. So, yes, I'm going to skedaddle on out of here while the getting's good. And I will see everyone on the flip side. Y'all have a good night.